Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of the Articulate Fly, and we're back with another East Tennessee fishing report with Ellis Ward. How you doing, Ellis?
I'm doing well, Marvin. How are you?
As always, just trying to stay out of trouble. And dude, you got a little bit of rain in East Tennessee. How's it looking out on the water?
Different. Looks like actual rivers. So the freestones, the long lakey sections on the musky rivers have been interrupted. There are certain sections you can't really even get through. I say you can't really because 258-pound drift boat, you can figure a way to get over stuff, but there's a lot of sections that jet boats haven't been able to go on. You just look around and it's like you can tell you are where water was and has been for a long time. And so that's, up in the hills of North Carolina and now, and then even down into Tennessee, French Broad, Nolichucky, you're driving by and you can see the coloration on the rocks is like very clearly not right. And you can't see them anymore. They actually look like rivers. They're flowing the way they're supposed to. And you can get from point A to point B. We do need to keep getting more. And thankfully we just got some snow. I was just driving back from musky fishing here about an hour ago and it's coming through for East Tennessee, coming through some legitimate snow. So, between those and the tailwaters that are going to be cooking up here for a post-spawn bite, it's refreshing. Makes me happy.
Yeah, and we probably should do a public service announcement. I've gotten a few comments on social media to let folks know about the closed sections on your rivers.
Yeah, so the Watauga is, whether you like it or not, open. And the South Holston has two different sections. I was about to say I'm going to reserve my comment, but why am I here? One of them is, they're both somewhat, I'll say, selected at random. If you ask me, they should close from the weir down. But the weir to there's signage. If you're floating that top section, there's a significant portion that is closed. From the first house with the floating dock, you'll see big signs down to Hickory Springs Bridge, and then the next one isn't down for a couple more sections, which is much less pressured, but signs on the downstream and the up. In the event you're running your jet, you don't have an excuse.
Yeah, and so those sections are closed for how long to protect spawning fish?
From November 1st to, I believe, February.
Yeah, so folks, just don't do it.
Yeah, and again, I like those guidelines, and I think that there's some awareness. The reds get fished here, and they get parked on, and it's kind of tough. And the reason I say I believe February 1st is because I start fishing more of the trout rivers, mid and January, but it's rough going out there and seeing people parked. And I've been a little more vocal about it this year, and I have received more than stern looks. And it's been for saying that guides shouldn't park on reds, which I thought was sort of like a universally accepted thing, but and it's not a to each their own thing. It's something that has to stop. And I think most recreational anglers around here don't do it, and it's tough to see that, mostly in the first, November, December, but reds are sort of algaing back up. Those light circles are becoming a little darker, and water, getting good pushes of water, and be time to kind of fish post spawn here pretty soon.
Yeah, and I know it's kind of, I know you feel strongly about it and you don't do it. And your theory is people shouldn't be fishing reds anywhere, closed or not closed. But I also know for you, from a practical perspective, it's not as big a deal because you're kind of, 24/7, maybe not 365, but a good 90 musky fishing, right?
Right now, yeah. And I start in heavy on that sort of August. The trout streams can just get a little more finicky. I'd said on a YouTube video how appreciative I was. This is my fourth year, and kind of the first year where it's felt sustainably busy, and the right people are finding me, and enough trips to have some really good days, and meet some awesome people. But please, let's make that busy season not from September through November, because if you pick up rocks and look at the bug life on crawling on the other underside of the rocks in February, March, through July, it your hand is crawling. It's teeming with life. August, September, October. I mean, you can still get great days, and I've had great days, but that biomass is moving out of the system, and they've also just been pounded since Memorial Day weekend. So I kind of start shifting sort of that late summer, but at the end of the day, both of the rivers, even though they can be very tough, are super healthy with lots of fish, and maybe not 365 days a year, but with dry fly conditions, maybe a little overcast or sunny, depending on the species of mayfly or caddis, but you're going to be able to find Roger. And we've had great days fishing dry flies as recent as a week or two ago. So yeah, it's not all just because some trout are spawning does not mean that is where you're going to go, or where everyone is going to go. There's plenty of fish that are hanging around doing their normal thing. And yes, I am at that time probably found on a musky river somewhere.
Yeah. Speaking of, what are you seeing, now that you've gotten a little push of water, how have things changed?
Well, we haven't. It's basically opened up a few different pieces of water. The areas that I've fished that are part of the TVA system. Um, patterning muskie throughout a season or over years is like, that's the hardest thing. Finding the home, knowing even the cities, not to mention the zip codes and addresses. But being able to do that in the same day when you're getting, a totally different set of conditions can be a little more challenging. Sometimes it can fire them up. But what more water means that we're having consistent windows of generation and no generation. So you're fishing the same amount of water, be it high or low, for longer periods of time, which it's really hard. I mean, sometimes you'll get them on those fluctuations, and you'll see them moving there, but fishing anything off color, just knowing how deep you're going and where they're holding based on generation or not, it really changes the day around. So having a little more consistency there and longer windows of water on is really helpful for tracking them down. And then on the freestones, I think it's fired them up a little bit. So it hasn't been so much that sections are anything other than like the topical view, like those logs that all should be underwater. Yeah, now they're underwater. They haven't turned into new holding zones or, rock structures, and some of the lower areas haven't vanished. But seeing more, I mean, just in the last week, seeing a little more commitment from the ones that I know where they are, and finding some other ones that, like, yeah, I didn't know they'd be there. But more you fish, I mean, you got a little color in the water. We've also just had some good days recently, some good moon days that coincide with cloud cover. So getting fish in the net and getting more of those addresses. I think that was a Chris Wellen thing from one of your interviews with him.
Yeah, funny. I just re-released that, or I reminded people of it, I guess more accurately. I'm doing a 12-day of Christmas thing where I'm putting out old episodes to kind of drive people back to Spotify. But yeah, it's kind of funny with those conditions. Good day to be a muskie, bad day to be a horsehead sucker.
Yeah, or good or bad day to be dead deer tied to a hook.
Yeah. And so, speaking of, we're kind of winding down. This is our last fishing report of the year, and this will actually be the last episode I'll put out this year. And it's time to do our drawing. And Ellis, you want to remind folks what we're drawing for before I tell you who the Google random number generator generated?
2 days of fishing with me, and that can be anything we want, anything I do. Warmer evening can include mousing. It's a lot. It's a lot of time trapped on a boat with me. You get trying to sell it before, and then in between the 2 full days of guided fishing, and in between staying at the Wataka River Lodge.
Yeah, which is super cool. And so the winner is actually local. I was pretty funny when I saw his name and his address. It's Chris Reinstedler. So Chris, super lucky. I would encourage you to reach out to Ellis on Instagram or call his cell. And if he hasn't heard from you in a week or so, I'll reach out to you. And I know Ellis, you've been the mad scientist cranking out bucktails. What have you got on the bucktail front?
My living room is covered right now. I just got everything. Recently dyed tail are in bag. I did a little different this year, and kind of focused on getting them all processed and dried, and then sort of doing batches of dyed stuff and releasing different sizes of the naturals at the same time. So I'll have an assortment of colors up in the next day or two. And if you're listening to this, I suspect in the next day or two, you should check my website or check Instagram. And then just on a rolling basis, I'm going to be continuing to put up some of the really nice naturals. I'm kind of hesitating to do that all at once because they get scooped pretty quickly.
Yeah. And so, folks, if you are a bucktail fan or if you're an Ellis Ward fan or both, one of the things we've done, if you've been watching our Instagram feed, we've been building out a Patreon community to support the podcast. And 2 great things Ellis is offering. There are 2 different tiers in Patreon, and you can just click on the link in our show notes. At one tier, you get a discount. You get 10% off bucktails from Ellis. And then another tier, you get $100 per year guide credit with Ellis. So if you're want to treat yourself or someone special, that would be a cool way to support the show and to support Ellis.
Yeah, Marv, I appreciate the work you've done on that, and I appreciate everyone's support. And I'm looking forward to getting new names and faces onto the boat. or sending packages to new names and faces.
Yeah, very, very cool. And before I let you hop this evening, Ellis, you want to let folks know where they can find you so they can book you and buy bucktails from you?
Yeah, website is the easiest way to get bucktail, and that is elliswardflies.com. You can also send any questions or book trips on elliswardflies.com. If you have questions or if you just want to reach out and ask about trips or bucktail or flies or whatever, easiest way to do that is my cell phone at 513-543-0019. And I'm on Instagram at Ellis Ward Guide.
Well, there you go. And folks, I want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, Ellis.
Merry Christmas, Parth.
Tight lines, everybody.